Hi, in this video I explain Python decision flow with if, and else statements. I also teach you how to write for loop and while loop in Python. At the end of this video you are challenged to write your own code to program a traffic speed camera. You will find it easy and fun after watching this video. So let's begin. An if statement is used to check if a certain condition is true. If the condition is true, the code inside the if statement will be executed. If the condition is false, the code inside the if statement will be skipped. This is the way Python handles the decision flow. The syntax is if condition statement. Note that we need to indent the statements under the if condition to make it part of the if block. Let's see an example. In this example, the variable age is set to 25. The if statement checks if the value of age is greater than 18. Since 25 is greater than 18, the code inside the if statement will be executed, and age is greater than 18 will be printed. What if we want to run an alternative code if the condition is not true? In that case, we use else statement. Let's change the age value to 15. Then we can have an else statement to check if age is not greater than 18. In this example, if age is less than or equal to 18, the code under else statement would be printed. If we want to implement more than one condition, then we should use the elif statement. Elif is short for else if, and we need to have a condition for it. Again, let's change the age value and then add the elif statement. So in this example, if age is greater than 16 but less than 18, the code in elif block will be run. It's important to mention here again that each block of code inside if, elif and else statement should be indented with the same number of spaces or tabs. Otherwise, we would face an indentation error. Loops. Loops are used to repeat a block of code a certain number of times. Python supports two types of loops, the for loop and while loop. For loop iterates over a sequence of items such as a list, tuple, or string. Here is an example of a for loop that iterates over a list of numbers. In this example, the for loop will iterate over each item in the numbers list. On the first iteration, the value of number will be set to 10, the code inside the loop will be executed, and 10 will be printed to the console. On the second iteration, the value of number will be set to 20, the code inside the loop will be executed, and 20 will be printed to the console. This process will continue until all items in the list have been processed. We can also use built-in range function to create a sequence of numbers to iterate over. For example, to print the numbers from 0 to 9 using a for loop, you would use the following code. For I in range of 10, print I. In this example, the for loop will iterate 10 times with the value of I starting at 0 and ending at 9. For a while loop, we need to define a statement, usually a conditional statement that controls the termination condition of the loop. For example, to count from 0 to 9, we can write this code. Counter equals to 0, while counter less than 10, print the counter and increment the counter. It is important to update the counter variable here. So every time the while condition is evaluated, the code sees the updated value of the counter. Coding challenge. Okay, so far we learned a good amount of Python basics. Here I want you to write a piece of code for this question. You're supposed to write a program for a traffic speed camera on a highway. At each time, a list of car speeds are received by the camera, for example, a list of 67, 64, 55, 70, and so on. You need to write a code that decides what to do based on the following rules. If speed is greater than 70, suspend the driver's license. If speed is less than 70 but greater than 60, issue a ticket. Otherwise, the car is good to go. I want you to pause the video here, spend 2 to 5 minutes writing your code, and then check out with my solution next. Test your program with the list I provided here, and your output for each speed should look like this one. First, we create the list of speeds. Then I create a for loop that iterates over the list. Inside the for body, I bring in my if statement to check the speed and decide the action needed for each speed range. So first print the speed, then check the highest speed and action to suspend the driver's license. Then check for the next highest speed which is greater than 60 and issue a ticket. In the else statement, I print good to go. When I run the program, every item in the speed list gets its appropriate recommendation from the camera. In this tutorial, we learned Python decision flow with if statements. We also learned about for loops and while loops. In the next video, I'm going to teach about functions and modules. So stay tuned to learn how to make amazing Python programs.